Hello and welcome everybody to AMS Weather Band's latest webinar, International Perspectives on Lightning Safety with Arlene Lang, Danielle Villamil, and moderated by Chris Vigaski. Ryan Blumenthal will be joining us, but duty calls, so he'll be joining us through a pre-recorded video. So he will still be represented though, so no worries. Before we begin though, as always, at the beginning of these webinars, I would like to address some of the guidelines. If you, the audience, have any questions during the webinar, please make sure to put them in the Q&A. There's a little button at the bottom of your screen. If you click on that, it'll give you an opportunity to write down any questions that can be viewed by our panelists. Questions for speakers submitted through the chat will not be considered. So you want to make sure all the questions go in the Q&A. If you have anything to say or to comment on, then please use the chat for that instead. And we will have some specific time for questions from the audience after the presentation. But of course, as opportunity arises during the course of the presentation, questions will be answered during as well. Now I'd like to introduce today's presenters. So thank you, Arlene, Daniel, and Chris. Chris Vigaski manages the Wisconsin Environmental Mesonet, or WISCONet, overseeing its day-to-day operations and expansion from 14 to nearly 100 monitoring stations. With a background in operational and applied meteorology, he actively contributes to meteorological associations, including chairing the AMS Board on Membership and co-chairing the 2023 NWA annual meeting. Chris also conducts research on lightning data and assists organizations in enhancing weather communication and preparedness. Arlene Lang, Coordinating Director of the Caribbean Meteorological Organization, spearheads collaborative efforts in weather, climate, and water across 16 English-speaking Caribbean states. Renowned for her research spanning tropical meteorology, thunderstorm systems, and satellite meteorology, she is an accomplished author, writing publications like Introduction to Tropical Meteorology and co-authoring the award-winning Meteorology of Tropical West Africa, The Forecaster's Handbook. Daniel Villamil is an electrical engineer who specializes in geographic information systems implementation with a master's of science in engineering. He is an acclaimed author and co-author on lightning safety. He is an active member of the research group on electrical systems and energy efficiency and high voltage and lightning research hotbed. And that's at Bogota's Universidad Distrital Francisco Jose de Caldas. Since 2012, he has focused on lightning risk prevention research and earned the Young Scientist Award at ICLP 2016. He currently heads the Latin American Lightning and Education Network, working to reduce lightning-related impacts in the region. And last but not least, of course, is our presenter who is absent but will still be represented today, Ryan Blumenthal. He's a senior specialist forensic pathologist and associate professor at the University of Pretoria's Department of Forensic Medicine. He focuses on lightning-related trauma and its significance in wilderness medicine. With extensive publications and contributions to international textbooks, his mission is to advance forensic pathology services globally. His expertise is demonstrated through 38 peer-reviewed articles and his current NRF C2 scientist rating. And with the introductions done, Chris, the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Gideon, and thanks again to Arlene, Daniel, and Ryan, who will see and hear from in just a moment. As we get things started here, I just want to address everybody and say thank you for your interest in lightning safety. This is something that is near and dear to my heart and to the hearts of the panelists. It is a major concern, not just in the United States, but globally as well. And that's why we brought together this really great group of panelists that spread across countries to really help keep people safe from lightning. And we are in the peak of lightning season here in the Northern Hemisphere, and we see lightning incidents happening on a daily basis. And really, what we want to do is, give you an understanding of what we're doing to keep people safe and help you learn how you can take what we're doing and take that out into your own communities. lightning is a major contributor to injuries and fatalities around the world. And if we can minimize that, then we are being very successful at our jobs. So each of our panelists today will have a short introduction about what they are doing in their region of the world to promote lightning safety and keep people safe. And if you do have any questions, feel free to, as Gideon said, put them in the Q&A, or at the end of all of the discussions, then we'll have another period for questions and answers. So what we'll do first is we'll show Ryan Blumenthal's video that he provided, and then we'll go to Arlene and then Daniel. So I will start with sharing Ryan's video here, and let me just make sure that the audio is shared as well, and we'll get this panel discussion underway.
I am Professor Ryan Blumenthal, reporting from South Africa on updates for lightning from this part of the world. So the first thing I need to tell you is that we hosted a very successful international conference for lightning protection in Cape Town at the Cape Town International Convention Center in October, the 2nd to the 7th, 2022. This was a wild success. We had experts from lightning from all over the world on South African soils, multidisciplinary. The presentations were fantastic. And fascinatingly enough, many of these presentations will now be compiled in a special edition for the Electronic Power Systems Research Journal. So watch this space. What else is happening in this part of the world is there's a lot of research happening in the background. So I can just talk for myself here at the moment. We're doing multidisciplinary research where we collaborate with different fields. So, for example, I'm working now with dentists on lightning. Yes, we're doing research into lightning and the teeth. There is very little written on lightning and the teeth. There's so many questions. A lot of the textbooks talk about lightning and fillings and lightning and root canals. However, we want to see what is actually happening in the mouth with lightning. You see, lightning is multi-physics phenomenon. There's electricity, there's heat, there's barotrauma. We want to know how the teeth get affected by lightning. So, for example, like a root canal, the tooth is hollow, so it's a hollow organ. Does this get affected by lightning? And what happens to fillings with lightning? So many questions, little looked at, so we're going to play in that arena. The next thing that's happening in this part of the world that I need to tell you about is that in February 2023, this year, I traveled to Rwanda for the African Society of Forensic Medicine Conference, which was also a wild success. This was hosted in Kigali, Rwanda. And what came out of this conference is that we, as South Africans, we won the bid for ASFM 2025. Yes, ASFM, the African Society of Forensic Medicine, is coming to South African soils in March 2025. I want to open an invitation to our international colleagues to come and attend this conference. And I promise you, you will experience true South African hospitality. That I can assure you. On another note, as part of Lightning Pathologist, the show that I did with Professor Ken Nixon and Professor Estelle Trengrove, which was hosted in November 2020 and was viewed by over 2.2 million people, I need to mention that this 8-part series was so successful that I've actually cheerleaded myself out of a job. My last lightning death that I've had as a forensic pathologist was over 2.5 years ago. Our lightning campaign, When Thunder Roars Go Indoors, was so successful in South Africa that I've had no lightning deaths to do autopsies on. So this is an unforeseen consequence of a highly successful lightning campaign. So anyway, we are on high alert for the next lightning death and lightning case, which we don't want to see but scientifically, obviously, we want to see. So it's a catch-22 situation. From a climate change point of view, so you get La Nina and El Nino events, which they say is about 7.5 to 9.5 years. These are cycles of wet and dry. And according to my discussions with the climate people, they say that this sine wave type cyclical event is being concertinaed inwards. So you're going to get higher peaks and higher troughs, wetter, more extreme weather, and drier in a more extreme compacted time zone. So what we are actually predicting is more thunderstorm activity, and with more thunderstorm activity, more lightning. Because according to the work of Professor Price from Israel, lightning can be seen as a thermometer for climate change. More climate change, more thunderstorms, more lightning. Finally, I would like to invite international colleagues to come play here in South Africa with our lightning work. You see, South Africa, we've got limited resources. However, we do have the casework here. So we invite our international colleagues for international collaboration with us here in South Africa. Please, we welcome you.
So that was Ryan's presentation. That was Ryan's presentation to us. Unfortunately, again, he was called off to do some forensic work, so was unable to join us here. But he did bring up a really good point towards the end of his presentation, which was the international collaboration and working together collaboratively, taking what we know here in the United States, what Arlene knows in the Caribbean, what Daniel knows in South America, what our colleagues in Asia and Australia know, sharing all of our information, all of our knowledge, all of our resources to really help people around the world make better decisions as it relates to lightning. And that's why we brought together this group of panelists, because they are really at the forefront of creating and sharing that knowledge. So Arlene, I will turn the microphone over to you, and you can introduce what you are doing there in the Caribbean.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you so much for inviting me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I hear you very well.
Wonderful. I'm, as was mentioned before, I'm representing here 16 English-speaking Caribbean states with regard to coordination and of joint scientific and technical activities in meteorology and hydrometeorology. I will share my screen now. Thank you. Oh, one moment. I have to stop sharing and optimize for video. If you bear with me, please. Yes, okay. Wonderful. So myself, I'm from a part of Jamaica that gets a lot of lightning. And I will show a map later on of evidence of that. And so part of this is a personal experience, and the other, of course, is because I'm a meteorologist with interest in hazard risk reduction from hydrometeorological hazards. So we recognize that there is this early warning gap with regard to lightning in the Caribbean, in detection and warnings. And in recent years, in particular in Jamaica, there's been an uptick in reports and casualties of lightning in Jamaica. And I'm showing here a few examples from outdoor sports and from business impacts, as well as impacts on aviation. And in my own parish, there have been fatalities with regard to persons being killed while they're involved in agricultural activities in the north of my parish, which is kind of like a county. This has been also very bad for livestock as well. So one of the things that we need to understand is that deaths and injuries are preventable, as our recent speaker indicated. Within the Caribbean, there's very little that has been done with regard to quantitative lightning studies focused on the Caribbean. The CMO member states, when we looked at them in our studies recently, led by Steve Goodman and his colleagues, we found that most deaths within CMO member states are in Jamaica and Belize, and a lot of the activities had to do with agriculture, fishing, football, soccer, beach activities. And Ron Holly provided that information during our most recent symposium, which I will discuss shortly. So the Jamaican Met Service noted this increase in reports since 2017, and they themselves had held a national stakeholders meeting in 2019. I cite also some examples on the right for essential services that were affected by lightning, including at the Guyanans National Weather Watch Center, and in my own high school, where 13 students were injured by a lightning strike. The impact on our economic situation in the region is very much at the forefront of the appeal that we got from civil aviation in 2017. Their building was directly hit, and they noted that people were in a panic and unsure of what to do. So they reached out to us, can we get some information on lightning occurrence and lightning safety? So then was born the WMO CMO Symposium, the very first of its kind on lightning and lightning safety awareness, and the two gentlemen involved in the webinar, Chris and Danielle, were lecturers in that symposium. We had 131 participants from 28 countries in that symposium, and the lectures focused on lightning injuries detection and forecasting, protection measures, and safety awareness. We had participants from across a broad range of sectors, and they indicated from their post-survey of the symposium that they benefited from learning about the lightning distribution and what were their options for detection, and practical advice on lightning safety and protection of life and assets. I also then participated in the regional disaster risk reduction platform of the UNDRR, and that was actually co-hosted by Jamaica, and speaking specifically on the impact of lightning and wildfires. I also, since 2021, we've been ensuring that the message goes out about lightning safety on International Lightning Safety Day on the 28th of June. And this is an example on the left showing what we sent out to the media. And this was then tweeted out by some of our media partners. This is from Trinidad and Tobago Television. And then we can see why someone else is doing this much more effectively than us from the Caribbean Media Corporation. This is what they did. So we've been working with our media partners to get lightning safety awareness out there. We also did a study of Jamaica's lightning distribution, damages, and casualties led by Ron Holly, which was also presented at that conference that was described by our previous speaker in Cape Town. And we do have a peer-reviewed article that resulted from this study. And what was found was that there's a maximum of lightning downstream of our main mountain range, which is the Blue Mountains here. And these are the other highest mountains. And this area here, this is where I grew up. And this is where you have that very nice red area of maximum peak in the lightning density. And with regard to casualties, the characteristic was mainly that from looking at information from 2005 to 2021, that young males accounted for most of the casualties. Most of the events occurred during September, which is the warm season. And most of the reports were, of course, during the afternoon times. The additional information that came out of the symposium and this initial study, which we would like to see expanded in the Caribbean, is that lightning causes damage to infrastructure, fires, electrical and electronic systems, which in the modern era means loss of productivity with downtimes due to service outages. And this is a big hampering of economies in the Caribbean that are already vulnerable to multiple hazards. So we need better detection systems in the Caribbean and lightning education in terms of lightning risk and the protection needed in places like schools, businesses, sports, government agencies. And we also need further studies to better understand our lightning risk and improve our protection and safety measures. And the point that was made by Ryan is that in a warming climate, we expect to have more intense storms and the need to become more resilient to lightning impacts. And on the right here, I'm showing you an article from Yachting World. And the Caribbean and the Mediterranean are some of the biggest areas for yachting. And what they've found is that insurance claims over the last 15 years, the total number of such losses have actually tripled. And so we're seeing that impact in terms of tourism, recreation, and general safety concerns. The satellite image here is showing the white is the lightning from the GOES lightning mapper from an event that brought within one night as much lightning as would have been observed in Barbados over 4 years. And so the other impetus that we have here is the UN Secretary General having issued in 2022 on World Meteorological Day an announcement to ensure that every person on Earth is protected by early warning systems within 5 years. And the WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, led an effort to create an executive action plan that was accepted at the UN Climate Conference COP27 in November of last year, rather. And that effort is being led by the WMO and the UNDRR, and as well as with contributions by the ITU, International Telecommunications Union, leading the communications aspect, and the International Federation for the Red Cross and Red Crescent, leading the preparedness aspect and recovery. So we are, with regard to next steps in the Caribbean, with funding from the Climate Risk and Early Warning Systems for their second phase of Caribbean projects. We're looking at strengthening the capacities on lightning monitoring and awareness building on a regional level. And that will involve conducting assessments of gaps and needs and developing an action plan to target persisting gaps on a regional level and to develop capacities for target countries, especially those that are experiencing high flash densities, and to support and hold public information sessions on training on lightning safety. And I will stop there and allow for questions later. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Arlene. You've been doing a lot of work, and we've been seeing a lot of you at all the various lightning symposium and conferences, and really appreciate all the efforts that you have put into really promoting lightning safety. And again, if you have any questions that you want to ask to any of our panelists, can include them in the question and answer section, or shortly we'll open up the floor to a discussion where you can ask your questions as well. So Daniel, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, so I just want to share shortly with you my presentation. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, as I was introduced, my name is Daniel Villamil. I'm from Colombia, and the presentation is entitled Promoting Lightning Safety in Latin America. Well, I have been conducting researching on lightning safety since 2012, and well, it has been a wonderful experience to meet many people that are working on the same field. And currently, I'm the CEO of Lalenet. I'll talk about it later. The first thing I want to share with you by presenting this map is that, can you see the whole map? The complete map?
Yes.
Okay, this is the map of Colombia, right? And in these maps, we can see the location of the official lightning deaths recorded through medical reports between 2008 and 2020, right? A total number of 707 deaths, okay? And these are official because the report comes from official sources, right? But of course, there could be many more events, but we are working with this official number, right? And we found an average of 54 deaths per year. And this is a first step to identify the areas that are likely to be or to have lightning death cases, right? And by conducting this research, we want to promote or focus the promotion of lightning safety campaigns and lightning safety education resources and tools to the areas most needed. I always like to remind the audience that we are going through an agenda for sustainable development, right? We are more than a half of the time, because this is from 2015 until 2030. But I want just to remind that among the Sustainable Development Goals, we've got one called Sustainable Cities and Communities. And inside this goal, we have a target number 5, called Reduce the Adverse Effects of Natural Disasters. And this consists in significantly reduce the number of deaths and the number of people affected, and substantially decrease the direct economic losses relative to global gross domestic product caused by disasters, with a focus on protecting the poor and people in vulnerable situations. So everything related to disasters, to natural hazards, we have available such a platform to promote initiatives, to promote projects regarding risk management. In our case, lightning risk management. Well, just to say that all this disaster risk management is in the context of the SENDRIVE framework for disaster risk reduction, and the first of its 4 priorities is understanding the disaster risk. So we have been focusing from the university and academic research to help people to understand the lightning risk. We are sure that that's the first step, right? And then the following steps are based on that understanding. And just to finish the context, I don't know if you already know that the United Nations promotes voluntary commitments, right? So all stakeholders can submit commitments regarding disaster risk reduction, and to to be followed or to be monitored by this platform. So this is very interesting because we can make visible our efforts through this platform. Well, in order to understand lightning risk is very special because it's categorized as an extensive risk, right? So if you study earthquakes and floods, all such disasters, they are intensive risk. But lightning is extensive risk because the exposure, the population exposure to the risk is dispersed, typically, right? No, they are not located at the same place at the same time. No, they are dispersed. Also, persistent and repeated hazard conditions. Well, we got thunderstorms many times a day during the whole year, every day, right? And low or moderate intensity. Well, because most of the events involving lightning injuries, the number of people affected is not as high as the people affected by other kind of hazards. And the high localized natures and the impact, well, they are also different because although the intensity is not so high, but the cumulative impact is. So we have to take this into account and to teach this to people to get a better understanding of lightning and risk as the first step, as I told you, to manage and to prevent injuries from lightning. Well, the same map again. As you can see, again, the distribution, the people are dispersed over almost the whole country, although there are some areas where the cases are concentrated in, but in general, it's a dispersed location of the deaths by lightning. Well, what we have been doing here in Colombia, this is the first the first page of the first book regarding lightning safety education ever in Colombia. It's in Spanish, but it's based on a document that is in English. You can, if you are willing to go and check on it. And this is the fruit of several years of research, mainly to identify the educational strategies and the educational campaigns and the resources conducted all over the world, right? And how, or better, which of them could be suitable for Colombia in this case. Yes, and as a synopsis of this research, we found or we propose 5 main educational resources, educational tools. Comic strips, right? You can see in the image how in Turkey children are taught about earthquakes. So this educational tool could be helpful, especially to those people and children located in the rural areas that are vulnerable to lightning risk. Then we propose to the development of a documentary, right, about lightning safety that could be presented in the schools and to people in a easy language. So a short one, but we are still in developing. This is still in developing. Radio advertisements, mostly in local radio, could reach many people with the lightning safety message. Also, the national organization, institution in charge of disaster management in Colombia has, of course, websites and apps, but lightning is not present yet. So we propose that lightning could be included in all these resources and in the knowledge committee of the organization, that is the National System for Disaster Risk Management of Colombia, right? Lightning could begin to be part of the system and of the strategies and promotions and projects that are done here in Colombia regarding disaster risk management. And also institutions like my university can support such inclusion, right? And several other institutions as well. Well, and I just want to finish by telling you that in May this year, the Latin American Lightning Education Network organization was incorporated, inspired by our fellow organization ACLENET in Africa. I know most of you know about ACLENET. So we decided to create a similar organization here, right? And it's already incorporated. The mission of LALENET is to reduce deaths, injuries, and property damage from lightning in Latin America, based on the following: prevention, right? Prevention everywhere. Prevention. Then how to get that prevention? Through education, special emphasis on education for prevention. Also, taking into account the context I presented to you in the first slides, always making emphasis that through disaster risk management, we can get sustainable development. Yes, so lightning risk management can contribute to sustainable development too. And the coordination with other institutions, with other organizations. The idea is to articulate efforts to work together to reduce lightning injuries in the region. And our vision is to be a reference organization for people and communities vulnerable to the risk from lightning strikes, so that they find in the organization guidance and support. Yes, several projects maybe don't find the support required. And to help to improve the quality of life of the people who are in danger, right? So LALENET wants to be that organization to promote projects in the region in Latin America, that projects that typically are articulated, but through education or by using education, by spreading education, we can get a more effective articulation among all the kind of projects. Projects regarding protection, detection, and other fields of lightning research like physics, modeling, measurements. Education can be that gear to articulate everything in a more effective way, right? Lack of safety education is one of the major contributing factors to frequent lightning injuries. So spreading the message of lightning safety to all people should become an ethical duty among lightning ambassadors. So we are inviting all lightning ambassadors, all lightning stakeholders to be involved with us. And as conclusions, well, we are going through a disaster risk management context in which we have available the resources, both at international and in many cases national level, to design and implement lighting safety education strategies successfully. But this labor must take into consideration that lighting is, as we already know, a very particular phenomenon. So it requires to be treated and studied and handled with care. And LALENET can play a key role in promoting lighting safety in Latin American region by serving as an umbrella organization for lighting safety projects involving all stakeholders. At this moment, we are building the website, so I cannot give you the web link right now, but as soon as possible, I'll share the web link so that you can know about us, about LALENET, and know our work, and why not to decide to get involved in the projects and in the educational strategies we want to start promoting here in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel and Arlene, again for your very good presentations showing what you have been working on in your respective parts of the world to promote lightning safety. And Katie, thank you for providing a couple of questions here as well. And again, anybody who's listening in today, if you have any questions for Arlene, for Daniel, for myself, do feel free to ask them, put them into the Q&A here, and we'll work to answer those in the next 10 to 15 minutes here. And Arlene, I'll direct the first question back to you to answer it verbally, just so that it's captured in the webinar recording. And that question was, is lightning reporting better in certain areas of the Caribbean than in others?
Thank you so much for the question. It actually is difficult to say because we just recently started looking at lightning casualties and reports about that. And we started in Jamaica because that has seen an increase in the number of media reports in recent years. And also the Met Service had people reaching out to them asking about lightning, especially since 2017. We would like to expand that kind of study to the other areas of the Caribbean, and our efforts through the cruise project, we expect to fill in some of that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene. Katie had a question to Daniel and myself that said that lightning fatalities tend to be more common for people in certain activities and in specific demographic groups, and was curious if there are similar trends in Colombia and in the United States. And I can say that here in the United States, yes, men tend to be most frequently the victims of lightning injuries and fatalities. And there have been 8 known lightning fatalities in the U.S. so far in 2023. All 8 of them were men. And it's frequently during outdoor recreation near water. So if they're fishing, boating at the beach, or outdoor work, roofing, farming, ranching, that sort of thing. Daniel, I don't know if you've looked into the demographics of the fatalities in Colombia.
Yes, in fact, we are conducting a research along with Ron Holly present here and other folks regarding demographics such population density, also regarding economics and some indicators regarding the level of incomes in order to try to identify correlations between those variables. But in general, Here in Colombia, we have the same trend. People outdoors, working outdoors during thunderstorms, in farms and agriculture, and most of them are men and young men, in fact. But yes, I think in every country there are specific features that must be taken into account to identify and to, after the identification of those areas more likely to be affected by lightning, to do something. Yes, but of course the first step is to perform such studies, and not only demographics. For example, as Arlene told us, with lightning density, lightning flash density, and climate variables are important too as well.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. There's another question here for you, related to the map that you showed of Colombia and the deaths. Was that the map that showed the location of those fatalities, and does that indicate a present, where the lightning is most frequently occurring, or is that where you just have more people outside during thunderstorms, or is it a combination of where the people are and where the lightning is?
Okay, that's a good question. Let's see the map again. Okay. Well, this map was made from data available to all public, from a governmental database. Of course, it's not easy to filter the data, but after filtering the data, we found the cases in which lightning is reported as one of the causes of death. Yes, in most of cases was reported as the main cause, but in some cases reported as second cause, third cause. Well, so the reports or the cases in which lightning is one of the cause, 707, right? And the location you see is according to the territorial division, municipality, it's called here, municipalities, in which the case was reported, right? And then, of course, the follow-up step is to compare with the lightning density, with the lightning flash density over those areas. And in some cases, we already did that comparison. And in some cases, yes, the lightning flash density, the areas with more lightning flash density correspond to the areas with casualties, but in some cases not. As I told you, other variables are being included that we may find conclusions and outcomes, solid outcomes from taking into account more variables, not only demographics, but also climate, weather, and so on.
Yeah, I think we see that happening here in the United States as well, where you have higher lightning density, so a higher frequency of lightning, and you put that into locations where you have more people and more people outside, your risk level goes up, and I think we see that around the world as well. We've got about 10 minutes left here. I think what would be interesting for me, and perhaps interesting for our attendees as well, maybe a little bit of what got you interested in promoting lightning safety. and how did you get involved? And Arlene, I'll let you start there.
As I mentioned before, I grew up in a part of Jamaica that we got lightning nearly every day. And in front of our house was an electrical pole with a transformer that religiously got hit, and the power went out everywhere. And I wanted to share a little video earlier, but I don't know if we have time, but I could maybe put the link in the chat of one of our comedians showing Jamaicans reacting to lightning. They're switching off everything, covering mirrors, doing all sorts of craziness, and telling everybody, don't take a shower. Because in my part of Jamaica, we did have a lot of this, and we still do. But the electrical company actually did a better job now with regard to the kinds of transformers they're using. So we no longer have that big pow that we got every day. They have better equipment that's better ground now, and some protection. The other really dramatic thing was actually a close family member, well, not directly related, but someone we call uncle, was actually farming and was struck by lightning, and he ended up in the hospital, badly burned, and was there for 6 weeks. We also had other family members who were just struck but not so dangerously injured. And one of the big things that struck with me was in 1982, the World Cup. We had a little black and white TV, and the day before the World Cup finals, lightning struck the TV. And so we were like at a loss trying to figure out how are we going to watch the finals of the World Cup. And so we had to walk around, try and find somebody else's house to watch the World Cup, because lightning struck our little TV because it was attached to a tall antenna above the house. So these are some of the things that stuck with me.
Daniel, you've been at it for about 11 years now. How did you get involved?
Well, I am an electrical engineer, and since the time I started to study electromagnetic fields, I got interested in the field of electromagnetics in general. But after that, I took a subject called electromagnetic compatibility. And in that subject, my professor, who is one of my current advisors, he has been my advisor since the beginning, showed us real cases, both in foreign countries and in Colombia. And I asked myself, well, what could I do from my profession to help such people, right? And finally, the final motivation to start, and I hope to continue contributing to working for lightning safety during the rest of my life, is that well, I am a Christian, and once reading a material, it was an analogy between a lightning rod, right? Lightning rod that is designed to receive the impact of lightning, so that everything around could be safe, could be covered, could be protected. And as well, Jesus Christ was like a lightning rod that died for us and received the wrath of God because of our sin instead of us. So joining my faith with my knowledge, with my field, electrical engineering, that was bloom. So it's a passion. I could say that it's a passion, and sadly, well, I currently I'm working. My work is about energy efficiency, so it's a field totally different, completely different from lightning, because working on lightning as a job here in Colombia is difficult. So there are not many opportunities to work on that field, to earn money from the field. But I hope in soon to get the two things, my passion and my work, from which I earn money, to be combined. And for that reason also, I decided to participate in the creation of the NGO Lalinen, to serve, as I told you, as that common point for all stakeholders. I again invite you, all stakeholders, if you know someone in Latin America interested in the topic, please tell us and tell her that we are creating such a NGO, and we, of course, we would like to have an impact like ACLENET in Africa, because what ACLENET has been doing is amazing. So we want to have something like that here in Latin America.
Thank you, Arlene and Daniel, for sharing that. And looking at the list here of people who've been sitting in this webinar, I see quite a few names that I recognize. A lot of names that are involved in the Lightning community. People I've worked with for many years, and then a lot of people that I don't know, that I don't recognize, and I really want to thank everybody who has joined and attended today for showing an interest in lightning safety, for showing an interest in what we are doing, not just here in the United States but globally, to really help keep people safe from what is an extremely common hazard. Lightning happens around the world more than 2 billion times a year, 2 billion with a B. So it is one of the most common hazards that affects people around the world every year. And hopefully you have learned something today that you'll be able to take with you and know more about what we're doing to keep people safe, and use that in your own day-to-day experiences to maybe help somebody who is more commonly standing outside during a thunderstorm to get them inside, or do something to help keep people safe from this hazard. So thank you all once again for attending. Daniel, Arlene, thank you for taking the time out of your extremely busy schedules to put together a couple of really great presentations to share with the AMS weather band community. And Gideon, I'll turn it over to you if you have anything else that you would like to say before we end.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, Chris. And Arlene and Daniel, also thank you so much for taking the time and making the effort to put together this presentation for our audience. Yes, all webinars will be available to Weatherband members at amsweatherband.org. And folks, if you have any further questions, or if you want to talk about the webinar, members are welcome to discuss on the Weatherband Community Forum. And with that being said, again, thank you, Arlene, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Daniel, for doing this for us today. And we look forward to seeing you all in our next webinar. Thank you, everybody.